So here we are. Don't back anything July. Almost the end of July, right? I put out 2 of these in June with how hot and heavy June was. July's been a little slower, plus I was on vacation, because vacation, right? It's summer, I don't want to be working around here. Anyway, right? As you know, we're talking about games. Games, as always, disclaimer at the beginning, that I don't think you should back. I don't think you should back it at all. I don't think you should spend your money that way. And I'm going to try and talk you out of doing so. Mainly because I don't want you to FOMO. I don't want you to feel like the grass is greener. I don't want you to feel like you're missing out with all the other games you already have, and that this one's going to complete your collection, complete your heart, make you less lonely, get you more friends to play with, right? Talking about me, not you, as always. And again, let me know in the comment section down below, what games did I miss? Why should I back them anyway? You know, how am I wrong, essentially? And I'm okay with that. Because if it's right for you and it fits all those categories and you're okay with it and you have the disposable income to do so and you're not doing stretch pay, then you can go ahead and do it. like you need my permission, right? You're tuning in for the advice, though. That's why we're doing this. As a side note here, I'm going to have a little form in the comment section or the bio near future. You can submit things to me. Either a few things. One of them being, you know what? You want me to react to something? You want me to rant on something? Here you go. Here's your opportunity. You know, because I don't see anyone doing a lot of the opinionated topics or even the reaction videos. I you know, like someone else posts a video and then someone else makes the thumbnail with their head on it of the same video and they're reacting to it. And I don't know if there's enough to go around in the board game scene like that, but I'd like to do it just to do it, right? Get myself in trouble there. And also any big news things, you know, as I cover the news on a regular basis and the upcomings and the ongoings and the goings-ons and all of those things. I'm done. Let's go. I had to go grab my buy water. You know, it's the coconut stuff. Actually, fantastic segue here. But did you know this stuff actually has caffeine? Coconut water? Who's spiking the coconut water with caffeine? Anyway, sorry. Done. Squirrel. We're starting there, baby. We're starting with DC Superheroes United. Don't be me. Don't back. Don't back. Don't back. This isn't going to change your mind. It is playing into the slight more complexity of this, if you've been following the updates. It is having a plethora of expansions. It is capitalizing on all the stuff they put out with Multiverse, even though I don't have my Multiverse time, and I probably won't have it for another month because it's not getting to East Coast backers, even to the shipment going to hit the coast on the 12th of August, so they tell me. And so I'm a little bit peeved about that, but that was also on my top 10 games to play in the second half of 2020. So I'm all in. Don't be me, though. Again, I covered this when it launched, and I said, is this slow to anyone? Is this only going to have a little bit of traction comparatively? And truth be told, again, like 1.6 million freaking dollars is awesome. But if you look at the other Marvel United campaigns, if you look at the other Marvel IPs, if you look at this, it should be doing better. Or are people not going all in anymore? Are people really managing their pledges in that sense? Because if you look at it, it's only averaging about $200 a pledge, if I'm doing that math correctly in my head, off the top of my head right here, right? Teen Titans, and they've got like your Green Lantern Corps, and you've got your Suicide Squad, and I'm not even scrolling down yet. But it's not going to change your mind if you weren't a fan of the original, right? This is exactly more of a thing. One of the board games of all time, as I said in a recent video. And I love it. You're not going to love it if you don't love it, right? The action system is relatively simple. The bad guys are incredibly dynamically different with the little bit of variation that the action mechanisms approach gives you. It's not going to change what it's doing or what the identity of it is in the first place. And the problem with it is there's no way of telling when you're going down here and scrolling through past the United system to the core box, right? To the Teen Titans and all of the other stretch goals and gameplay add-ons here. Justice Society of America, Suicide Squad, Gotham City, Metropolis, Green Lantern Corps, Sidekicks. You'll notice, though, that with some of these, if you pay attention to the graphics very closely, which of these are exclusive, which are giving you exclusive figures, and which are sort of a little bit of neither, right? So that's going to be the question you have to ask yourself. And really, if you're like me, do you get finally on the 4th campaign bust out for the playmat? And the answer is maybe, because someone was selling the playmat for like $70 in the secondary market. And so if I just buy it $39 here, then anyway, sorry, painting compendium, you're never going to get your miniatures to look like that. Plastic tokens and plastic cardboard villain dashboard things you don't need. And so the question just is, when you're looking at this, which ones are really, really behooving you? Justice Society of America, it looks blah to me. Suicide Squad looks, okay. Suicide Squad is always a big letdown. At least they have in the media for the last, decade. Oh, them's fighting words. Gotham City is probably the best looking one with the least exclusivity. Like, I wish this one was exclusive. I'd pick this up a guarantee. But again, it's going to cost you a buku load of money. You're noticing all of these are anywhere between $20 and $40. So, if you do the math right here, right, 75 plus that's 110, that's 145, that's 175, that's 195. That is what, 210 then right there? 210 and just add-ons. It has to be $100 pledge level, so that's 310 before you're talking about any of the deluxeifications as well. And I'm filming this with almost a week left, and so you're gonna wager that with this amount of time left, 6 days left, that it's 310 right now. There's at least one more expansion with 6 days left in store for us. So you're talking probably 350 before deluxeifications, maybe a slight grouping bundle there down to 330 or 320 if Simon's really feeling generous, plus the $50 shipping. So you don't have that much money. I don't want you to spend that much money. Don't be like me. It looks freaking awesome. I haven't really seen anything compatibility wise, but I haven't seen anything to say that it's not compatible either. So I'm going to play like it's compatible. The only thing I worry about is, especially if you do something like that, is it going to be creep in terms of power creep? And that'd be my biggest concern as a whole. Power creep. I don't care when I'm going to get it. I've got Multiverse coming, like I said, August 2025. So you're going to be giving them a free loan essentially for a year and a half, because I guarantee probably not before 2026. Sigh, 2026. It's 2024. The pandemic does weird things. Are you, at the core of any of these pledges, willing to give a year and a half's worth of free loans? That's what you're doing. That's what you need to talk about. That's what you need to think about. And I'm back at 4,191. Don't be me. So, Tanglewoods. Speaking of don't be me, this thing's killing it. And they actually put it out an update, and I wonder if it's like them watching one of my videos. Not that they actually would watch one of my videos, but they put out an update because I'm following it too, right? One day, essentially, look at that. At the time of me filming this, exactly one day before it ends, and 13,000 people following it, 8,000 people backing it, almost $1 million. I would say this is inarguably their biggest success, not money-wise necessarily, but just the fact that this is just a deck-based solo card game system with a token chip, right? And from that side of things, they said, our stretch goals are not actually fake stretch goals. We do true stretch goals. You're not going to get this extra card unless we get $100,000 or whatever it was, right? I'm not making those numbers up, but they said that, and I go, okay, that's fine. At the same time, I would worry that if it's a true stretch goal in some of these situations, about balance, right? If you're coming out with cards of the woodwork and you're making stuff up during the campaign, how is that going to balance here hero wise? And I guess maybe that's why you're doing this, right? You're getting, a new hero, but that's to be determined. So that's okay, great. And new art, yeah, art is expensive. So I'm not going to argue that whatsoever. This is what you're getting. You're getting a campaign pack. You're getting 20 strong as a campaign with 3 different decks. And you know what? Truth be told, no one's buying one, right? No one's buying one. Let's go to the reward section here, because 20 strong here is the variation of the original with the 3 individual products that they put out previously. This is linking them together in an Alice in Wonderland style situation with a core box that you can get, or you can get just all this superfluous stuff without the core materials if you have the original already, which again, I give kudos for, because that's my big gripe all the time with, say, something like Aeon's End, where Aeon's End is like, hey, we're going to give you standalone expansions and you're going to end up with, 15 superfluous things by the end of the, backing us after 3 times, right? I don't need spinny dials keeping track of the health of Gravehold 4 different ways. I don't need 37 different shades or artwork of crystals because you've changed them on every single campaign, right? And so they're offering you just this deck bundle, and that's a good price. Now, Gamefound side rant here. Screw you. I'm sorry, but this lowest price in last 30 days BS, right? This is pure and utter FOMO. Pure and utter middle finger, launch boom-esque FOMO, right? Camel, Amazon style, right? Because either you're going to increase this to $75 post-campaign and you need to be transparent about it, or this is just pure marketing bull stuff, right? So I don't see the purpose of that. I don't like seeing companies doing that. And I'm not singling out, Chip Theory here, because I just saw it on the roundup the other day with another company. And I think a lot of pages are doing it. So I think it's a Gamefound thing, not an individual company thing, if that's making sense. So that's a whole nother issue. But if you want the core, you can get there. And if you want everything, you can get that there. Again, 1380. This is FOMO. People going, I missed it the first time around. I'm going to get on the hotness now this time. This is going, okay, 5,000 people. That's actually a ton. I thought you'd have a lot more people here. So I guess I'd wonder, what's the real difference between these two? Because I'm not really, truth be told, aware of it. Let's see. The core. Okay, well, you're just getting all of the, okay, foil accents. Right, okay. I guess you can get the other. I don't know, $10 is worth it from that aspect. I would get that. But this is a solo game. This is highly random. This is giving you strong mitigation, highly random, completely variable difficulty. I only know because I backed it the first time around, reviewed it, and said, you know what? It's a solid system. It is clearly not for me. It's not one that I found enjoyable, right? I'm biased, right? And I try these things occasionally, as I tell people to get out of your comfort zone, because occasionally you find something like your Castles of Burgundy, your Raz, or things like that you go, I don't like that genre. I don't like that type of mechanism. I don't like that player count. And then you find something that changes your mind on that specific game. This one, unfortunately, for solo person, me, that's not usually that type, didn't do it. I'm not going to argue price with you. That's holding less and less water. I don't do these to resell anymore. My main sticking point in these is not you're gonna be able to resell it for more money. It's, are you going to get it played enough to justify it in the first place? Or are you buying it because the grass is greener and your partners are, looking down the street and saying, we need that like them? I don't know why I went to an, cowboy accent there for a second. It's just one of those things, right? You get real amped up and just, it goes all over the place, right? But that's the thing, right? And how much of this is the grass is greener? How much of this is the Arcs, Slay the Spire, Earthborn Rangers effect that we've seen as the three hottest games that, have been lauded in terms of the people missing out and feeling like they need to get it because they are seeing other people having a good time style of thematic incorporation here. That'd be my question. Don't do that. Do you? Kemet boy, $622,000. Area control. 2 weeks left. This thing's been going for a long time. 4,200 backers. The real question is, again, you're getting modules. You're getting higher player counts. You're getting a little bit more deluxeification. That's really what you're getting in Kemet as, one of the preeminent original dudes on a map. I hate that term. Persons, miniatures. We should just call them miniatures on a map now. I prefer cubes on a map personally sometimes. But that's what you're doing in this tech tree upgrade battle-esque risk on steroids. I know he said those words. You know what I'm saying. There was that Reddit comment the other day. Like, isn't this game just risk on with a few extra rules? Anyway. So you're getting 2 new colors. You're getting 2 new teams. You're getting more gods to create new combos. And you're just getting more gameplay to go with your gameplay, right? So you're recruiting, you're moving, you're building, you're praying, you're acquiring power tiles, upgrading your pyramids, getting your mythical creatures, and smashing out other people, right? Miniatures are awesome. I love the meeples, though, that Cyclades just did with this. And so I kind of wish they had a little bit of that as a whole. Do you need more of it? Or are you getting back in? Because this is not insignificant returning pledge level, right? The new all-in is 250. The collector from the previous with the junk to junk is 177. And if you're getting just the new stuff, you're talking expensive deluxeification and $90 of expansion with a big box. And if you're like me, you're looking at this and going, I don't need a bigger box, Chris. I have enough trouble storing the stuff that I have, whether you have a small room like this that's jock full already, or you have a large room that's busting at the seams and you're just wanting to put more stuff in. Again, this is one of those where I'd say go try it out on the secondary market before you buy the deluxe version. Go try it at somebody's house. I guarantee you know somebody that's probably got a copy, and then you still have 2 weeks left to figure out whether or not this is right for you, plus or minus whatever the heck the pledge manager is going to offer as well. So there you go. Kemet, Rise of the Gods. Blood, Ludus Magnus. This actually killed it at the end. I didn't think this was going to get anywhere near what it got. And so I give them a lot of kudos here, and they did really well. This one ended at the end of June. I just covered it very briefly in the previous one. So we're covering, again, some projects that have recently ended. But this was sort of what I imagined Grimcoven was going to be as a whole, right? I have a video on this coming out in the near future because I have one of the prototypes here. It got sent to me towards the end of the campaign. And so I'll be able to talk a little bit more hands-on with this. But it's boss battling Castlevania-esque style. Now with Ludus, they're giving you the option again of miniatures versus standees, but the gameplay was the big question, right? How are you doing this differently than what was being offered? Just like with Awakened Realms and Grimcoven, right? You've got the aesthetic, you've got the miniatures, but the gameplay key elements were really the boss battling versus boss battling, right? More dice-driven card combat here, more crafting, and more uniqueness in terms of what they're trying to sell in terms of the enemies. I worry that favorite mode that you're going to pay from one of these modes and two of the modes aren't going to be used, right? Are you a single offer? Are you a roguelike progression? Or are you a campaign narrative? Chances are you're probably not all three. Chances are then, with the prices that this is going to cost you, you're going to pay for all three though. The Essential Edition, I mean, $72 is relatively cheap for something like this with standees on crowdfunding. The question you have to, ask yourself if you're looking at really the, penny pinching side of things is this going to be less at retail, or is this going to be significantly more if you're looking at it from that aspect? The complete show, again, tons of expansion content. I don't worry about that. I worry about your ability to get expansions played. Just like with Marvel United that we were just talking about. How can you tell if Nosferatu, Dark Prince, Grand Tour, or Moral are going to be the expansions that are going to be the one that you like, right? That's going to be the big question mark as a whole. I don't have a clue. This one, new game mode, 3 new bosses and a 5th player. I don't need a 5th player. New bosses? Okay. You know how I feel about tying gameplay content in with player content. So that's my big worry. Grand Tour here, 4 new troopers, 1 new day to play with, expansion, new heroes, new crafting, new opportunities of all the good stuff. Tons of stretch goals. Ludus, again, just like with these other, I'm not worried about affordability in terms of price per content. But is this game going to be right for you? And just like the one we're going to talk about next, right? I want to see the majority of this on the page. And this one, just like Grimcoven, didn't have as much on the page of why are we doing what we're doing in terms of the mechanics, right? It has more than Grimcoven, and it's got these videos broken down, how you're going to be playing and all the things you're going to be doing. But I just want to see a text element of things. I was just talking about another big game company in the roundup this past weekend that I was like, okay, well, you're a big name. Why is none of this stuff on the actual page? So I'd like to see, again, some of this just straightforward, straight on the page. What are we doing in terms of why I get this game? Why is this unique? And I just wish some comparisons, right? Like, nobody does this on the media side of things extensively, right? Because if you're a company like this, right? I just throwing this out there as a totally mind thought exercise, right? My mind palace, I'm going there. This is one of those videos. If I was a company putting out a dungeon crawl miniatures campaign skirmish style game, I almost would want one of those little boxes, right? Those little check boxes that sometimes people do at the bottom of these, pages where they say, if you get this column of pledge level, you get X, 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 and they mark off these 3 columns. And then you go over to the next column and they've got like 5 X's. And you go over to the third column, it's like, you've got 17 X's. And you go over to the right column for the all-in gameplay, deluxeified, super everything, Super Bowl edition that gets you like 34 different X's checked out, right? Like, I would wish that someone could do a comparison like that on one of these pages that says this is how it compares to X game. This is how it compares to Y game. But I guess that's not really a publisher thing because that'd be throwing shade at other publishers, right? But maybe that's what I need to start doing on my side of things to help people differentiate. Because as I said on one of the recent news videos, when I see literally 2 of these or 3 of these a month, how do you differentiate in your head which one of these is for you, which one of these is going to be best for you? How is the gameplay mechanic actually going to be that different? Because you look at this and you go, dice-driven, card style, combo-licious, create your own, tech tree, campaign, link them together, roguelike, insert different adjective here, style of things, and this one is the best one for me compared to the Joe Schmo down the road, right, with our different tastes. So, Ludus, okay, you need to know what you're getting into. No, I didn't talk about as much of their mechanics, but food for thought. If nothing else, I'm leaving it there because it's my video and I didn't talk about the mechanics enough, but I'm sorry, I'm trying. Odalin, right? $1.5 million. I said this when it launched and I've been poorly communicating with Dragori because they were potentially trying to get me a prototype and I've just been super behind, swamped, vacation, sick, all in one. And Odalin here, I would say, is probably one of the highest risk, highest reward games I have seen all year, right? Like, I think this is actually going to smash it, or it's going to be too much of a good thing. Like the embarrassment of riches style of situation here, because what they've done here, and they actually laid down some real straight, this is why you're getting it. You know, they break it down here of, okay, epic campaign, single scenario, co-op, solo mode, lore, straight to action, which again, it brings up the blood point as well, right? Like, I love the customizableness of it, but at the same time, because you're giving me it all, I'm paying for it all, which ironically, Bloodstones from Druid City Games got raked over the coals a couple years for doing just this, where they gave a PvE and a PvP style of things, and people didn't want both, and people griped about it, and there was miniatures versus standees, and now you've got all of these campaigns doing exactly just that. So, you know, Bloodstones is more just a circumstance of the times rather than the concept as a whole. You know, you're going to be basically acquiring your hero, getting their demon powers, transforming them into the Demon Lord with fused cards that have a top and a bottom here, and rinsing, repeating, sort of a la your grab bag, not really Gloomhaven-esque, but exploration with a loot system along those lines. Again, these 4 companies that I've mentioned already in this video, obviously didn't show Grimcoven, but we're well past that. I'm done covering that situation for now. They have the best miniatures on the market, so they're fantastic looking. I mean, these are just incredible. And Dragori has put out better ones every single time. $130 for the core, though. Expanded campaign with just the extras, right? Expansion campaign and more of the lore style of things. And then the full immersion, again, is $300. So the consistency between all of these campaigns we've really talked about so far is they're all lifestyle games, right? I was just playing the other day Red Dragon Inn, Tales of the Red Dragon Inn, which is sitting next to me here, right? And then I was playing Tamashii, right? And then I was playing, you know, and then I was talking about, and then I was talking. So 1 is too many, and 5 of them is not enough. That's what you're running into. So can you affordify all of this? I said affordify. Yeah, I'm making up words on my channel all the time. That's why I'm stuck at the subscriber count that I'm at. Boom, shakalaka. I mean, these are cool, right? This miniature is awesome. Guy of 1,000 faces, sweet. I have no clue if he's actually any good. Abaddon, Lord of Hell. Freaking sweet, but is he any good? Do I really need him compared to the other one? I mean, he's a miniature, so that's okay. But that's the question. With this expansive, open-esque campaign style system, where it's going to make you balance things out. If you go one way too far or the other, it's going to, you know, cause you detriments because of how you're using your powers or how you're killing things and in which ways you're killing things. That's going to be the question of, do you like that thing? Or sometimes do you just like a plug and play and go, like Tales of the Red Dragon Inn, right? You just want to go. Or do you care about having unlocks? Do you care about having content locked behind certain areas, aspects, scenarios, or chapters with your Tamashis, with these sort of things? Again, like, is that a make it or break it? You know, sometimes, you know, campaign games, lifestyle games, how do you prefer? I like the Marvel United personally, again, right? Because I have access to all of it right away, whenever I want, mix and match however I want, whenever I want. And that's just what you're looking for here, is the customization, the ability to mix and match, and the ability to, frankly speaking, get this massive mother of one. See, like one of these, this is what I was talking about earlier, right? One of these for all the games like this. One of these that you can get to the table. Demon Lords, sort of Arabian Nights style-esque, is a slightly different thematic incorporation than we've seen. I'm not going to go into the mechanics of how you're going through all this stuff. I think it looks fantastic. I think there's way too much stuff, and it's going to be way overwhelming for people, sort of like a Luthier in a different way. That's maybe where I'll go with this comparison. This is the Luthier of dungeon crawlers. Boom! Shakalaka. Luthier, great game. It's got way too many tokens, right? For me. But is it enough for you? Because that's the other thing that I look at this now is you go, okay, how much of this can be managed with apps, and how many minutes am I going to spend punching out tokens, you know, of losing parts of my life to that in the first place when I get this and am organizing it right? So that's what you got to wonder. That's what you got to think about. And again, I think it's going to be great, but is it going to be great for you? Wandering Galaxy, Crossroads game. We're going back over to Kickstarter, stuff that's currently running too. So this is from Plaid Hat, and I love me some Plaid Hat Summoner Wars. I am a bit mixed on the others, the Crossroads games, right? And I feel like a lot of people are. This is not unreasonable. $142,000. This is a back-end indie campaign game publisher company in situation, if you will. And this is very much like their previous two. Forgotten Water, this is just like Forgotten Water in space. And so if you were a fan of either of the previous two, this is probably going to be another iteration of it. And it's in space, and so thematically incorporated. The only thing, again, I wonder about is just, $60 is a lot for something that is, well, on crowdfunding. And I think Freelancers is arguably better than Forgotten Waters, but it's, very light. It's very whimsical. It's very, well, just, not take yourself too seriously style of game with a crossroads edition of pulling cards and events and checking off boxes in order to mitigate with your dice rolling and going through the locations on the ship as opposed to the locations necessarily around the areas that Freelancers had in the first place. So it is different. You can have them all, I would argue, but I'm going to say it reminds me a little bit more of Azul in the same sense that one of these may be your preferred one more than anything else. So I need to get voice acting jobs. Anyway, I just thought about that. Like I have a really nice deep voice for radio, not for, TV because my face. Anyway, Forgotten Waters, all of the, positive things about all this stuff. That'd be the question, is just whether or not this one's right for you and how different it is. And truth be told, if you're on the fence with this one, go pick up a copy of one of the other two. Go pick up a copy of Forgotten Waters or Freelancers. Although I'll make the argument again that with this one, as a 2-player game, you're not going to get your money's worth. You really need 3 and 4 just to have some fun dynamics on the table, because it's not going to be a huge overhead rules slog. It's very nice. It's a little bit save easy, and you can just play and go back and forth. And it's just, again, I worry about replayability as someone who doesn't read books a second time or watch movies a whole lot a second time. Is this going to appeal to you if you're similar in that vibe? Because I'd make the argument maybe not with the way some of these scenarios play out, but maybe they've changed that enough around with this one as opposed to the other two that you might get more of your miles worth. Yonder, $89,000. So 200% of its funding goal and 20 days left. Fantasy worker placement from Sinister Fish. So it's just a lighter style in appearance worker placement. It gives Lords of Waterdeep 5 in the sense that this is your main player board right here, and but you're creating your tableau based off of building cards that you're using those resources to build in front of you that not only you can place your workers on, but other people can place their workers on. If you place them in the city, you lose them at the end of every round, and you get new workers coming off the shipments and the boats that are coming into the town in the first place. But if you place them on your own tableau, you get to keep them for future rounds. But the tricky part is you have to feed them each and every round, as well as fill your envoy boat filling spots, if you will, or you're going to take penalty in the form of loss of victory points as a whole. Lots of asymmetric workers here. Workers are going to be giving you different ways of utilizing them on the board, decreasing the costs of the buildings that you're going to be building, giving you double resources, placing them in already occupied spots, or not needing to be fed. So again, giving you different amounts of asymmetry with the buildings because all of them are different. You've got your just resource spots, your passive spots, and your endgame spots. Ships that are going to give you abilities to trade, mitigate, and resource manage, and rinse and repeat. Solo mode, as well as a few little stretch goals here. And there's a little expansion content to give you more variability that's going to go along with it. Rulebook's there, my video's there. You can check it out if you want. It's going to be a little bit lighter. It's not going to be as heavy, but it's going to have a little bit different dynamic in terms of the penalties and the loss of workers on a round-by-round basis. And is that going to behoove you? Is that going to be something you're going to be liking? Because, Sinister Fish has put out other ones that have kind of flown under the radar and then done really well post Moon. And so give it a look-see. But don't buy it because, again, this one might be too light for you, right? I'm telling you not to back it, right? I lost that part somewhere in translation. Too light for you. Is it going to need the deluxifications? Do you need the expansion content? Do you already have enough work replacements of this ilk heavy style or light style? And are you willing to go out on a thematic incorporation lean if you're not a fan of fantasy? That doesn't really matter, but I thought I'd throw it in there either way. Burgle Brothers 3, almost $200,000. And I'd make the argument that this probably, in a good way, streamlines a lot of the issues with 1 and 2. I'd make the argument if you have 1 and 2 and like them, 3 is probably not worth getting. I'd make the argument at the same time that if you don't have 1 or 2 and you're interested, 3 might be the one to get and kind of makes 1 or 2 kind of meh. And what they're doing here, again, is what you're going to be wagering, right? Do you like dice randomness, move around a grid, hidden movement-esque, cooperatives where one person loses, y'all lose style of things, flipping up random places, dealing with guards, mitigating, wandering, and upkeep? So I think it's fine. I really am a try before I buy with Burgle Brothers at this point. I tried the first one, wasn't a huge fan, never got the second one, And I'm intrigued to see with these double-sided tiles, with the dynamics that you're changing here, with the workers that are going to be slightly different, the hidden disguise powers that only give you one less action to go along with them versus the no disguise and 4 actions side of things. I think it's offering a whole lot, but I think it's a little bit more complex than the group that I play with is going to like because of the dynamics necessary on a game-by-game, overarching pandemic style, slightly heavier vibes it gives me. Not going to argue price point. I'm not going to argue the fact that ice is kind of cool. You got to, beat the ice program before you can actually achieve your objectives, or it's going to be too hard. So I think it's done some good stuff in terms of why you should get this one. But then the question is, if you have one of the other two, is it going to be that much different? Or is it going to be a Nemesis Lockdown, Nemesis Retaliation situation, right? Where, you know what, the one you have might just be plenty good enough, and you just might not like some of those other slight iterations in the first place, because it might be too much of a good thing. Dodos riding Dinos, first race. So this is just a fun game. It's Mario Kart racing-ish. You just play cards simultaneously and you go in turn order. And it's just take that. It's heavy take that, because invariably you choose someone to flick one of these little tokens at, and it's going to knock them back or cause them damage. Or in this one, you actually get to potentially give yourself benefits by hitting yourself with these tokens. And you've got a new mini star one here, and the board here, really honestly, it needs something on the board, but it's also going over to the my first genre style things. It's still a little bit heavier. Like, I can't play this with my 3, almost 4-year-old, and the symbology is a little complex when you're first teaching it, say a 6, 8, 10 range. And once you learn it, it's super simple. And once you do the dice flicking, it's really straightforward. And I really like the change that they've done here with the red cards, that you can play them simultaneously with other people's if you can meet the harsher conditions. But it's going to be way too light and way too take that for way too many people. And it's not going to be, behooving of you if you don't have any interest in that whatsoever. It's just a fun, don't take it too seriously. I get last place every game because my kids gang up on me style of game, right? Flicking, throwing, missing, narrowly king making, that's what you're dealing with. I love the mechanics. You won't, because you're not looking at something this light or this just, purely more family style of things. It does a great job at that, and I really give them kudos for that. But if that's not what you're looking for, it's probably not going to change your mind, right? I really prefer Dodo Dash now over the original because of the idle cards that get offered in a Dodo Dash. Again, it's going to be too light for you, and that's okay. It's going to be too take that, and that's okay. But if you're looking for something, there's probably not a better one on the market too, to be fair. It's just whether or not you want to get it for $25. So give a look-see, or not. Sorry, always forget about that. Luthier, speaking of way too heavy, right? We're going to go opposite in the spectrum here. Almost $500,000. Again, I am almost ready to film my video for this. I have the prototype sitting in my kitchen right now. This is going to be heavy. This is going to be heavier than a lot of the things on crowdfunding. And it gives me unconscious mind vibes, as I said previously, just with the pure aesthetic and the different areas you're going to be utilizing. But with Paverson, what they've done similarly to Distilled here is that they've gone very smooth mechanically and allowed for depth of replayability based on those mechanics. But because of some of this, right, it's not going to be as heavy for the heavier folks. It's going to be too heavy for some of the lighter game folks. And that's one of those tweeners where, are you going to fit that window of this vibe, if you will, right? Because the heavier people aren't going to be enamored with it, because it's not going to be heavy enough in terms of the strategy, in terms of the minutia, in terms of the upkeep. It's not a long enough rule book for me, Chris. Or the lighter gamers are going to look at this and go, this is fine. Like, I understand, like with Distilled, right? This is fine. I understand the mechanisms, but, I don't want to play a 2-hour game, right? I want this to be an hour, 75 minutes-ish. And that's what you have to ask yourself. And again, with this one, how big are the deluxifications? Because that's the main reason you're looking at supporting the publisher on the crowdfunding side of things at this point, is that you're saying, okay, I want the deluxifications in order to justify these prices when all of these get singled out later and get piecemealed, and it's going to be costing more than that. Because otherwise, still $69 for a retail edition nowadays, even with a promo pack. Promo packs, how I feel about those. Promo packs aren't worth it. How much are you paying per card? So that'd be what you have to ask yourself. And if that's the reason you're doing it, again, look and see, but you may also have a few other things that's going to hit the table first. Again, not that this isn't going to be a good game for people, but the question you have to ask with a game like this, just like with the other ones I was talking about in terms of lifestyle games, is this going to take the place of something else that I already enjoy? Or is this going to have a complete another niche that's not going to be fulfilled or filled in the first place by something else of similar weight, ilk, thematic incorporation, or similar mechanism? So it's got a lot going on. Don't be confused. Replayability is not necessary with expansion-wise when these games come, whether it's Distilled or this one. So if you're looking for that style of things, That's what you need to be aware of. And, well, check it out and see if it's right for you. But I'd make the argument that with what they're presenting here to you, you're going to maybe fall in that in-betweener crowd like I am, and it might not be quite right for you. So maybe wait and see how your friend likes it when you try their copy down the road. Catacombs. It's in their Catacombs, right? I'll directly compare this to Aeon's End. You know, I love Catacombs, right? I'm a big fan of Catacombs. The designer and I have been, communicating back and forth a ton, and I'm a big fan of it. But the question is, like Aeon's End, at some point, do you reach saturation? And the other point is, again, as it says here, right, this is a standalone as well as a compatible. Where do you draw the line in terms of which one, if you're looking at this right now as a newbie to Catacombs whatsoever, right? This is D&D, the disc flicking dungeon crawl game. And it's fantastic. And the playmats are fantastic. But this is like Chip Theory. This is like, Ivy Studios. This is going to be deluxified with the playmats, with the wooden components. And so you're going to pay a premium price here. And so you have to love this. Double-sided playmats. Big box of this, and that's what you're going to have to argue, is that this is a linked campaign style game, and so it works in terms of what it does very, very well. There's nothing else out there like this or duplicative near it. But as opposed to a 30-minute one-off, this is going to be a 1.5 to 2 hour linked campaign, one versus all style in the first place. So that's what you have to ask yourself. Is that what I'm really, really looking for in terms of this? And truth be told, it's giving you more. It's just giving you more of a good thing in the Aeon's End sense of this is just more of the same. Slight nuances here in terms of maps and new heroes and assistants and lords, but it's all pretty much the same. So can you take more breadth this way rather than breadth this way? What is your preference? Do you want to make it that much more complex and make it that much more deep? Or would you rather just have the Marvel United wide? And that's why it's the Aeon's End, right? Because that's what Aeon's End does. And that's the power creep concern that Aeon's End brings. So that'd be the only thing you'd have to ask yourself, right? Premium versions, neoprene mats, smoother flicking, totally works. And again, it's just whether or not this one's right for you. 6 new heroes to go along with. Hopefully the tropes, are giving you something slightly asymmetric and different there. And sessions, right? But you really have to link them all together. And that's the thing. If you can't link them all together, you're probably not going to get the most value out of this in the first place. So there's a few slight nuances and tweaks I won't go into. A few little extras here that you're going to get. And again, you do it because it's a small Canadian publisher more than anything else. But if you already have 1 or 2 of these expansions, this one, is it going to be the make it or break it? Is it going to be the standalone expansion that you're going to get in the first place if you have just the core? That's what you have to ask yourself as well, with other stuff already well established in the first place. Next up, Brink. Killed it. 9,000 backers, 1.2 million. A little bit of Catan vibes with resource management, with a little bit of whatever else you want to call, right? As you're placing your ships down, 1, 2, or 3, 1 on the center, 2 on the side, or 3 in a vertice between the various action location resources. And the thing with this one is that you're going to be getting favors, resources that you can't utilize that you're going to have to trade on your turn to somebody else. And that's the big make it or break it with this one as a whole. And I can see it sort of being really tough in order to really have the group dynamic. If you've got a great group dynamic for that, I think it can work out. But if you don't, again, in the terms of scoring, in the terms of the exploration with the random tile flipping, and then also the allocations for the factions that you want to have the most power, the secret bidding, well, I guess I worry about it being just enough secret bidding, right? If people can look at the board state and say, he has the most power in this area, he's going to bid here, how secret does it have to be in that sense, in that way, right? So that'd be my big question. And then again, it's going to be a little bit of, well, could you have some king making? Could you have a little bit of, I see you're in the lead, I'm going to go trade with this other person, a la Catan, if you will, right? And you have to get rid of these resources. What if just no one's willing to trade with you? Or if you don't know the dynamic of your table, you should not back this game. Access the pledge manager, late back, whatever you want to say, right? How pretty, how deluxified, how stretch goal ridden it is. Those things should not be make it or break it, right? You need to be aware of the dynamics, because you're going to have action cards, you're going to have player cards, you're going to have objectives, you're going to have your ambassadors that you're utilizing. All of those things. Straightforward, streamlined. Ivy Studios does a great job from that aspect, but do you fit? That's the big question. It's Moonrakers, but nothing like Moonrakers other than just the comparison thematic incorporation, if you will, right? So that's what you need to be aware of. And again, with the chip theories, with those ilks, right? This is going to be a little bit more deluxified as a whole. So is that okay with you? If that is, awesome, go for it. Similar, well, savings from that aspect of things, but should not be your main motivation for any of these. So, as always, if I can actually get the scrolling to work here, go Brink it up, right? Nightshfit. Okay, right? I don't care about theme. The gameplay is really straightforward. It's kind of roll and move. Take one of two actions and then go. You've got the two main areas you're going through, and you're going to have some potential heavy take that as well. It's going to be super light with a very dressed on theme. If you're okay with that, go for it. But again, don't go into this one for yourself without having read the rule book that it's not going to be heavy. It's not going to be a Euro. It's not going to be that dynamic. It is what it is. Very straightforward. If you know that, you're okay with looking at it, you're okay with going for it from that aspect of awesome, fantastic. But it's really expensive for what it is, right? Miniatures alone, 25 bucks, no biggie, right? But $80 for the standard edition and a freaking magnetic box ton of $120 for holographic foils, artwork, and, well, velvet interior. So, you know, we were just talking about paying for deluxeifications, so if you want to here, but at the same time, where do you want your deluxeifications to be? Take that for what you will. Agemonia, right? Another finished one. Agemonia. Again, this is one of those campaign pages I looked at and I said, if you weren't familiar with Agemonia when I first covered it, like, you would have no clue what makes this game stand out, what makes this game different, or why you should even be appealing to it from that aspect, apart from the one or two videos on the page that tell you that this was their game of the year, essentially, right? And it tells you, okay, like, here's the picture of what in, here's the money, and that's about it, right? You see a little bit of the new stuff here as well, the daily unlocks, but nothing to say, okay, well, these are the mechanics, these are the differences, these are the anything on this page. So, I mean, that's fine as a reprint, but I feel like that's a little bit of a, okay, we're just going to ride on our laurels sort of situation. Not the, I want to provide the most information to backers who are interested. And again, like, that's where you want to get. You want to see these campaigns like we just talked about with the 20 strong campaign, where you have like literally half the people going for the new pledge, like the new person pledge. And that's be my concern, is how different, as I said previously, is this one going to be the make it or break it for you? And you know what? Truth be told, you're not me. You're not a reviewer. You're not a media person. You can't afford to have all of these 9 out of 10 games. So which 9 out of 10 games, in terms of score, are going to be right for you? Because all of these potentially could score that way for you. But do you have a clue, right? I'd rather see gameplay example on the page than how the box is going to be organized. I don't need to see this on a page. I don't care what page it is. I don't care. I'm just illustrating the point here as well. So take that for what you will. It's going to be freaking awesome, like all of these are, but which one is going to be for you? Yield. I think it's clever. I think the area control is going to be dynamic, but it's heavy, take that. And you know what? Truth be told, my friends over at BFF Games, I mean, they put out a solid product, but it's not going to be right for you if you don't like the very heavy gameplay dynamic of moving your armies around the map and negotiating and conquering these in a repeated, lay your cards down, pick them back up style of things. I think the value was the other question here, and it's a little bit high again for a deluxe Kickstarter version. It's going to cost you over $70 North America shipped. That's not inexpensive comparatively when you've got things like The King is Dead, or now the more recent El Grande reprint at retail, right? I know it's like in between printings or something, like people were saying. But again, you're paying for crowdfunding deluxeifications. That's really the reason. Because again, the retail probably is going to be much more, customer consumable friendly, and you can still support them there as well. Asymmetric powers expansion, that'd be the question, right? Could this be incorporated in the base game as a whole? And maybe it should be if you're looking for something a little heavier. But it gives me more The King is Dead, like vibes, if you will, than some of the other heavier ones. And I don't say that as a bad thing. The King is Dead is a relatively well-received game as a whole, and I'd argue that that's a good comparison, a good pedigree to be held up to. So give it a look-see. Deep Regrets, the name of my channel, or should have been the name of my channel, or most of my videos, or most of the things owned, in front of me and behind me. Again, this is going to be very sort of solitaire, multiplayer-ish, and it's going to be potentially just, press your luck. And again, I think the aesthetic, this has the aesthetic written all over it, all of the botanies and canvases that we've talked about in the past. Canvases, I don't know why I just went long on the vowel sounds there. But it's going to be that style of things, where it's going to be push your luck, get more insanity, get higher risk, higher rewards in the first place. and get the little expansion to go along with it as you're fishing, researching, revealing, triggering, paying, and, you know, utilizing those supplies in the first place. So that'd be the question. Again, 3 different modes to play with. Which one is going to be your favorite? And is this one going to be rubber meets the road, or is this one going to be sort of a fit to print sale for me? Because that's the reason I just kind of held off, is I like the idea of what they're offering with the different depths and the layering of the mechanics of going down, and the more insanity, the better things you can get, but the more dangerous it is. But I just look at this and I go, I want to try before I buy with this one. I just want to try before I buy, because I just don't have a freaking clue on the good flow of this. Again, this was one where the idea of it up here makes sense, but the flow with a fit to print sale style, I just need to see and experience rather than do so. And that was why I just kind of said, okay, I don't know why I clicked on the link there, but pass right now. Jurassic Feud. Again, like, I compare this to Catapult Feud, which I think did a lot better, to be frank with you. But I think it's just a, you know, generic Catapult Knights thing versus dinosaurs. Dinosaurs maybe just aren't as popular. And the other thing I worry about with this game is that, you know, you have this really simplistic version here, but how many of us are going to be satisfied with this little simplistic tower as a whole? And how many people are going to want, if we like scroll down to the all the way to the bottom where they show off like, okay, this is what you can really do, right? Like that. Like, that is not one set. But if you're getting the Kickstarter editions, I mean, that could cost you like $300. And is this like a lifestyle game for you? The other thing I have concerns about is, one, I can't tell with these expansions what these expansions are actually going to add. I think I'm scrolling up too far. But then the other issue right here, right? Do you have the space, the physical need space for this one? 1.5 meters between battle areas. I don't. And I don't want to say minutia, but the actuality of the kids game style of things, that's one of the biggest barriers to playing a kids game nowadays for me, is the setup, tear down, pickup, overhead wise, just from that aspect, minutia, that I don't always want to do even for my kids' sake, right? And so that's my bigger barrier to entry on these things. Not that, you know, again, it's a huge issue, but even with like the 6, 8, 10 range, it's like sometimes they're willing to do that, and sometimes it's, you know, pulling teeth. And it's one thing if they're helping out, but it's another thing if they're like not doing it and you're setting up like 1 or 2 of these others and your own, and then you're teaching, and then you're like, so that's where my concern is. And I don't really need all of this. I need like 4 of these and less of this, because it reminds me more of a Restoration Fireball Island situation where I'm going, okay, the Hydra looks really cool and the Volcano looks really cool, and, you know, the Vikings look really cool, and the extra ammo is nice, but like, I don't really need that stuff. If I don't know that I love it in the first place, like, I don't think a Volcano is going to change my dynamic interest in this. The Hydra is nice, but like, I don't need an extra thing to shoot unless it's going to offer me a completely dynamic different way of shooting or mitigating or dealing with this. And I don't really get that. Okay, right? I want to see that dynamic in play. So that'd be my only question and concern with that. And it's expensive for what it is, but you can probably get it cheaper too later if you want to wait and see. So give it a look-see. So there you go. The Don't Back Anything July version, right? Hopefully this comes out before the end of July. That might be the bigger issue, right? It's like August and Chris is like, here, don't back stuff on July. And like, not only like the ones that are ended, but like 3/4 of the ones that weren't ended are ended too. Anyway, I'm done. That's it. That's all I got. You know, I kind of got lost and confused in the middle. Like all of a sudden I'm telling you, you should get this because it's a good game, but actually don't get it because that's the name of this video. And I don't know what I'm doing and I'm done. And peace out. I need to go do some other stuff and film some other stuff, and you know how it is, right? Stay classy. Have a great freaking day.